Hi, Dennison Von Maurer here at the Altoona Ridge Lodge. I'm the owner and operator. We sit in the middle of the Flint Creek Mountains in Granite County of southwestern Montana. It's a 20-acre parcel where 10 acres of it was clear cut in 1976. The reason that the crew from the University of Montana is up here this weekend is to discuss defensible space for these structures that I built up here over the last 5 years. And so we're looking at Forest Service land that's around us, which has sat here without any maintenance or fire for the last 100 years. It's very dense. There's a lot of standing dead, and it's very difficult to walk through for animals or humans. And so from there, in the clear cut that was in 76, we've been thinning it out. Originally the purpose was for skiing, and then as I learned about the fire concerns, we also created defensible space. One of the big issues that we run into is that we sit at 8,000 feet at the top of what I call a road. Other people seem to think is more of a dried up riverbed, and no truck wants to come up here to cut or log the surrounding area of my property so that I can remove some of the bigger timber. So what I have to do is cut down these trees and then let them sit, because I have no way of moving them around the property without just tearing up the land. There's no way of getting like a tractor or something in there. So all this timber just sits there, and that creates a fire hazard as well.
Our primary concern is the structures. Everything that Dennison has put time into. The buildings are what's really important out here. So that being said, what kind of things are you guys noticing about his cabins and about the in-holdings that's good, that's bad? What are you guys seeing, just taking a quick look around?
It's pretty clean around the houses. It's not like huge overstored trees like towering over the houses or anything like that.
The metal roofs are good, and there's no fuel under the deck is one of the first things that I noticed. That was really good.
One of the things I've noticed, like all the eaves are closed. That's one of the really big things that'll catch a lot of structures is when a flame front passes, the actual radiant heat is rarely ever enough to ignite the structure. What actually catches the structures is an ember falling someplace that you don't want it to. So a lot of people who have open eaves, it can eddy into the structure and just set in the attic and sit there for a couple hours until it actually ignites the structure. So having everything closed is really good to see. I can't stress enough that it's just the embers that are going to catch you. Jack Cohn is a researcher at the Fire Lab. He's looked into a lot of that in a lot of places in California, and he's got pictures of whole suburbs that have burned down, but there's a juniper bush standing in the middle of the area that didn't burn. And what he called that was, he called it miracle vegetation. And it's just because it didn't receive an ember, or it wasn't right next to a structure that was burning. So in those cases, what happened a lot of the times was a structure started, one of them started, and it was in close enough proximity to ignite the next structure, and the next structure, and the next structure. And it just took one ember in one of those homes. He went down to California, and he was finding a lot of things like, needles in the gutters, brooms sitting right next to the house. Any of that dry material that sits right next to the house, it becomes an immediate threat in a wildfire. Put fingers up in, it just takes an ember sitting in here for it to really take the structure. But having a stockpile of that much wood, if that did ignite, has the potential to spread to the structure because it's in close enough proximity. That radiant heat will pass through the glass and it'll ignite curtains. Just take those curtains down, take them in from the window. The structure will ignite well before the propane tank will do anything. If at some point you do have to dig another hole, I'd recommend just placing it out a little farther.
750 gallons. That's There's that vent on the west side of this house. A little
Yeah.
bit of hardware cloth over it or something, keeping ember from going in there.
There's
Dryer vents are the big things that people don't cover up, and those are
yeah.
tinder boxes.
Up
I-
above the structures, that was a point of concern. Was a lot of the dead and down above the structure. So because it's on a slope, a lot of times you'll have what we call rollout, to where it'll burn part of a log, and then the rest of it will roll downhill. And so that's one of the things that we'd be happy to start working on, is bucking up a lot of those fallen lodge poles. up
Oh yeah,
above
we
the
just
road.
cut those down last week.
So one of the improvements that we're going to do is we have a jackpot of fuels located uphill from the structure. A lot of times in fires you can have what's called rollout, where a round or a piece of wood will burn until it's released from the slope. It can roll downhill, in which case you have a rolling piece of wood right next to the structure. What we're going to do to improve it is we're going to move it out away from the structure and create a burn pile that can be dealt with at a later time during less extreme conditions or when there's snow on the ground. So this was where the big jackpot of fuel was that we removed. We eliminated all of the heavy logs and everything that was above the structure that had the potential to roll down and ignite the structure. We cut it up for firewood for the homeowner, and on the other side of this burn behind me, there's a nice burn pile that he can burn at a later date when there's snow on the ground, and we don't have any issues with control at that point. So the work that we've done has resulted in this. It's a pile that Dennison can burn later in the year. Might have a nice winter bonfire. As you can see, that lodge pole leaning above it is more than likely going to be consumed when the burn pile is lit, regardless of the time of year. So we're going to take it out. Open line.
Type of fire that you're going to get in this environment in the lodgepole stand is going to be rock and roll. It's going to be a stand replacing fire. It's going to move through the crown.
a mosaic of lodge poles, and it's because the stands age at different times, and if they're a young stand, they won't burn as easily as an older stand. So having this smaller stand of younger trees also provides some protection from the crown fires.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, having this clear cut below and then having it down slope, is really good to see.
So around your structures, you want 30 feet or so, pretty intensive removal of vegetation, and then 30 feet to 100 feet, you can have a more progressive thinning, more trees, but you still want to thin them a little bit.